Okay, we are live again. Beautiful. Get everything pulled up. Oh, let's get everything out. And perfect. Make sure everything's good. Yep. Alright, perfect. And let's do... Let's do that. And we should be good. Alright, we're back again. I'm back again. We'll see what type of conversations we have today. I really don't know. Could get some socialist stuff and could get some abortion debate stuff. We could get some theist stuff. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what the ops are today. Whatever the main thing of today is going to be. But yeah, of course, we got the Discord and everything. If you disagree with any of my beliefs, feel free to hop into the Discord and we can have a chat. I am an atheist. I do not believe in the capital G God. Hey, how's it going? I would need to translate. Let's see. But yeah, if anyone disagrees, you can feel free to hop into the Discord, change my mind. All my beliefs are in there as well, so it doesn't have to be atheism in particular. We are open to pretty much whatever anyone wants to talk about today. Seems like the main ops have been the socialists, the pro-choicers, and the atheists, or excuse me, the theists. So we will see. Pretty much any of those are up for debate. I also try to put my political beliefs and such out there. Pretty much any of that's up for debate as well. But yep. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in the capital G God or the ultimate foundation. So if you believe in a ultimate foundation, or you are a monotheist of that kind, feel free to let me know why. And if, I've missed an argument, I'd love to hear it. So pretty much any of them are valid. Again, looking mostly for your monotheist. Not really looking for people that are into the pantheonic type tradition. I think you're already almost an atheist. I think you just like mythicism, so not exactly who we're looking for. But yeah, I think our main goals, I'm sure we'll end up talking to a socialist at some point as well. As soon as their socialist streamers are done on Twitch, I'm sure they'll roll in. And we'll end up with those discussions as well, but we'll kind of just see, you know, basically my beliefs are in the description over there on Twitch. I need to go ahead and throw them in the bio probably, but they're on Discord as well. So actually I'm going to go ahead and add them. Let me do that. Give me like 2 seconds. We're going to add that. I don't know. Let's see. We could just do what would it be? It'd be like just search text here, add it in. There we go. Boom. We'll just call it beliefs. We're gonna basically say atheist. Let's see, and let's add. Give me 2 seconds here. Shrink this up. We'll worry about that later. Just hide it for now. Okay. That's like the next project. We need to add in all the beliefs on screen. We'll get those added in next time. But yeah, I think generally we'll see kind of who ends up coming in. I think we'll see if we end up with any socialists today. They seem to be a major op right now, so we'll see. Because yeah, that topic's open for discussion as well. Again, link in the bio or link in the description depending on where you're watching. Feel free to join the Discord. If you disagree with any of the beliefs on there, let me know. I think that generally we actually need to go through them because I think they're all current, but we need to double check. Let's see. Social issues. So this one is outdated. This one shows a few wrong things here, so we need to update a couple of them. Let's see here. So we are going to take these. So let's take the philosophy stuff, atheist. We are now pro-life. Moral realist. anti-Marxism, all socialist philosophy. Let's see if there's anything else that needs done. A few of these got knocked around for some reason. Value-added tax, yeah, we're still in favor of value-added tax. Anti-communism, yep. Should be a price floor on grain, yep. Corporate taxes, yep. Single-payer health care, yep. Decommodification of education, yep. Progressive tax rates, yep. Free trade, yep. Yeah, all this seems fine. So we're going to say this is going to be updated. Pro-life politically. And yeah. So all the beliefs should be updated in the Discord now, and they should also match on Twitch. So pretty much any of those are open for discussion. But obviously the main ops we're looking for right now are people who are pro-choice, people who are theists, and people who are socialists. And we'll see. I'm sure we'll get some on some different platforms. But not sure yet. We also need to make some clips at some point here. We'll kind of see. But yeah, I think generally those are our main ops right now. I think that, I don't know, I just don't buy into the continental philosophy stuff. So, all the socialist crap we'll see, they tend to show up. And then the theists, some of them do as well, we'll see. But yeah, generally I think some of the foundations of it are just not good. Some of the foundations of the continental philosophers, I think post-structuralism and all that, it's just silly. Once you start getting to the point where it's like, the only reason why you're speaking the words that you're speaking is because the white man told you to, it just starts to get outrageous. And that's the thing with some of these post-structuralist philosophers. I mean, that's literally where they are, because there is no agency. It's just historically, whatever happened historically is what happened, and that's it. Right? There's no choice in the matter. There's no intentionality. I shouldn't even say choice. I should just say intentionality, but it just starts to get really weird once you start denying agents, but at least in my opinion, which is kind of one of the major issues I have with like socialism, is just the rejection of an agent or rejection of agency. I think that's just inherent in a lot of their philosophy, and the only one of the socialist philosophers that kind of thought agency was still there was Marx, and everyone after Marx sort of rejected agency. So, which is why, like, pretty much the only one you could read that's somewhat coherent is Marx. Everyone after just starts to get innately ridiculous. Any sort of like structuralist, so that's going to be like your critical theorist and your feminist, like third wave feminist type structuralist, and your all of them, they just start to get ridiculous. Same thing with like your neo-Marxists, post-Marxists. All of them are just wacky, right? But if you look at like original Marxism, like, at least he accepted agency still, so there's still something there. M. Gerald, 2003, what's up? Jesus loves you? I appreciate the sentiment. I do not think that Jesus is any sort of alive today to know that he loves me, but I'm sure if I met the dude a couple thousand years ago, we probably would have gotten along. Seemed like a cool dude. But yeah, I think that I don't know. That's just my general thing. Is like the I don't know. I think as I've read some of the like newer socialist stuff, it's just a bunch of crap. I just don't ever imagine being like that. But traditional Marxism had some points, because at least Marx still accepted agency. Hey, what's up, Sagata Desu? How's it going? But yeah, I don't know. That's just my general thought of it. He is alive, my friend. I reject that, but nope. Jesus is not alive. He is dead. But yeah, I think that's the general thing on the socialist thing. We'll see if any of them pop in, but probably not. But yeah, no, I think unfortunately Jesus is not alive. I'd love to hear your evidence that he is. That would be awesome. Yeah, I reject. I'd assume you're a Christian. I reject Christian theology, so I'd be curious what your argument in favor of Christian theology is. I am an atheist. I don't believe in capital G God, or the ultimate foundation does not exist, so in turn I'm going to reject the Christian view as well. So just curious what the evidence is of that. I think if you look historically, I think you could say Jesus lived, or there was some type of historical Jesus, but you have a question of historical Jesus versus theological Jesus. And yeah, I reject a supernatural theological Jesus of any sort. But probably would have been cool to meet the guy. I don't know. You say, yo, what's up, Jesus? Although I'd have to learn Aramaic for that, but it'd be cool. But yeah, no, I don't. I'm just curious. I'm assuming. I'm guessing that's all we had to say, but I don't know. If you have any arguments to support that, I'd love to hear them. But yeah, no, I think that the historical Jesus is all as we know for a fact. Is most likely there was some type of historical Jesus, or Jeshua, which some people argue is just a misspelling of Jesus, or Christu, which is also some people argue is just misspelling of Christ, or mistranslation of Christ. But yeah, some sort of Christu dude or Christ dude existed. At least if you take the theological or biblical scholar majority opinion, which I have no reason not to. I think there is something to point out with that, though, that you don't really get like a true atheist perspective from any of it. Even like the quote-unquote secular scholars, like a lot of them are like agnostic or like were religious their entire lives, so they just like take the colleges that they learned in, they just kind of accept their theological teaching just simpliciter. So I don't think that you really get a good atheist perspective. I think there's one that does like a postmodernist type interpretation of the Bible, or basically does like a author perspective breakdown. That's an atheist perspective, but that's the only one we get. And they would even maybe still conclude that Jesus existed, so, or Christu, or Christ, or Jeshua, or Jesus. People argue whether or not those are just misspellings or if they're the real name, but same gist, probably talking about the same person. So I guess we know, or like we could be like 99% confident that like that guy existed. You could be fairly confident. There were more than 500 eyewitnesses who saw Jesus after his crucifixion, all at the same time. His apostles died because they refused to reject the truth. Yeah, we have no reason to think that's the case. I guess why should I think that's the case? Or why should I believe that there were 500 eyewitnesses? I'm sorry, I'm German, so my answers take some time. Nope, all good. All good. Yeah, I guess, why I think that that's true. I highly doubt it. I think it's probably more or less just a creed that Christians passed on. Yeah, what's up, Jonathan Swift? What do you think is socialism? Socialism is when the workers control the means of production. And then it would be like a stepping stone to communism. Communism would be like a moneyless, classless society. Just vaguely. Or like borderless, moneyless, classless society. Or like stateless, classless, moneyless society. I guess like ultimate communism, I guess. From like a Marxist perspective. But yeah, socialism is just going to be generally workers own the means of production. Why do you think it sucks? Yeah, I think most of the predictions made by socialists are just silly. I think Marx... The only thing that might have had some value is dialectical materialism, but you're never going to have a moneyless society. I think it's just worse than a money-having society. And you're never going to have a classless society. And then, you know, so that's communism, I guess, but more specifically socialism. I just think practically there's no reason to think it won't just break your society. Owners of corporations determine quite a bit of outcome with their companies, which there's decent data on that. So if you take away ownership from owners and give it to the workers, most likely most of the companies in society will collapse. And then we'll just all starve to death or be in anarchy for maybe 20 years, I guess. It'll suck. So I don't want that. So, but yeah, I think from a theory perspective, socialism's useless, other than maybe dialectical materialism, but only if you accept agency. And then I think the actual like prescriptive policies are crap. Like worker cooperatives, I think would just destroy the country, most likely. Or I should say, I think that it will cause mass harm because ultimately you can't do an experiment on it. Which model do you think is ideal? Yeah, just some sort of social liberal model. So you basically accept like liberalism, and then just basically we're all working in a society. We all agree to give up some of our rights and some of our resources in order to secure safety and security. And yeah, we just kind of duke it out and argue about what we should give up. And, you know, I think you should probably give up some of your money to pay for things like healthcare, education, welfare, stuff like that. And there's maybe a few other things you could fund as well. But, yeah, just like some type of social liberal model or social democratic model, I guess, is what other people refer to it as. But that's going to be the best model in my opinion. I think liberalism just correctly describes the world more accurately, and so we can make better predictions. Fair, I agree. Yeah. Yep, we're probably both in the same camp, I would guess then. We're probably both like social liberals or social democrats of some kind then. But yeah, I guess I reject socialism from more like a theory perspective and a just policy approach perspective as well. So, yep. Yeah, like I think the classless and moneyless society thing is just not going to happen. So I guess that would be my ultimate critique. And then dialectical materialism gets some things right, but it's just overly simplistic. Yeah, I guess that's the gist of it. And then the main thing that like modern socialists are pushing for is worker cooperatives, and I have no reason to think that that you can actually take existing companies and turn them into cooperatives. A lot of progressives often advocate for pro-Russian stuff, which I personally find kind of hypocritical. Yeah, a lot of them are unironically, well, it's because they're like actual like communists, like, and like actual Leninists. They're not just like, oh, we'll take this in between stage of socialism and just stop there. Like, they think any presence of a market or capitalistic like forces immediately is like the end of the world, and you can't let it come back after like letting it into your society or getting rid of it. So that's how come they end up being like pro-Russia, pro-Chinese Communist Party. Like, it's just weird. Like, they unironically are like, well, you need a single party state, because if you allow a capitalist party, capitalism's going to re-corrupt everything. So you have to like murder all the capitalists if they refuse to go to re-education camps, basically. And this is what they'll just straight up tell you too. If you look at some of them, they'll just straight up admit it. Hassan Piker as an example is such a walking bag of contradictions. Yeah, and a lot of it's just straight up insane too, where it's just like unironically going to shill for the Communist Party of China. And I mean, he won't even hide it either. I mean, his, like, if you ask him, he's admitted it in conversations. He'll just straight up be like, they're cool, like, the Chinese Communist Party, that's just your Western perspective or whatever. Dog collar. Good old dog collar Piker. Horseshoe theory. Yeah, I mean, it kind of is horseshoe theory, and I think it's even more like, I don't know, I think he's just like, I think that there's like different perspectives. So I think that the political spectrum's like tiered. So like you have like the liberal spectrum, you have the authoritarian spectrum, and you have like the anarchist spectrum. So like, I think horseshoe theory kind of just explains it, where like if you're like an actual committed communist, you're on the same spectrum by default as like any right-wing authoritarian. What separates you is just like your view of hierarchy. So like the far left people want no hierarchy at all. They think any hierarchy existing is like just innately bad. So if you ever attempt to be higher than someone else, you become an enemy. So that's their view. And then the far right believes in like extremely rigid hierarchies, and that if you try to break the hierarchy, you're an enemy. So if you don't stay in your lane with your people or with your group, then you get executed, basically. So like both of them basically have the same belief structure, that you have to like kill the enemies in order to maintain what you want to maintain. So they end up agreeing on a lot. So it's kind of horseshoe theory, but slightly different perspective. Because yeah, I think that like the political spectrum, left and right is ultimately pro-hierarchy, anti-hierarchy is what left and right is. And then you have an additional spectrum in the middle of the left and right that's authority, anti-authority. So like the liberal spectrum is going to say we all agree on authority, but the authority is not a single authority, it's the law. It's like a philosophical concept of authority, or agent-based authority, as opposed to a person or group-based authority. So like communists ultimately believe in like a group-based authority as opposed to rule by law. So yeah, and then obviously your anarchists believe in like pure agent, and that's it. Like there's no agent obligation, so there's no authority at all. And then your left-wing anarchists are going to be like, you know, oh, we got to all reject hierarchy first before we could do it. And then the far-right anarchists are just going to say hierarchy is the only way to go because it's basically might makes right. Just beat. If you could beat someone over the head with a stick, you deserve to do it. So that's where they're going to disagree. So, yeah. I don't know. I think that's the thing. So when you look at someone like Hassan Piker or anyone, I would say basically anyone on Twitch that's in that sphere, they're unironic, like they're on the same spectrum as a right-wing authoritarian or just any form of authoritarian. Monarchists are going to have similar principles. They're just going to be a little bit more in the middle. Like, you know, Christian nationalists are going to be on that same spectrum. They're all on that same spectrum, so. Which is the thing, like, I think it's just something, a lot of people that call themselves socialist have just been tricked by these people into thinking that they're socialist, but they're not. They still accept rule of law and like a liberal theory. They're just like far left liberals. They just think that we should work towards smaller hierarchies within a rule of law. But like anarchist communists reject rule of law altogether. They reject any rule, period. And very few people, I think, believe in that. They just are tricked into thinking it. If they spend 2 seconds and think about what a society without central obligation looks like, they would probably be like, no, that's silly. And like the authoritarians or the Leninist types, unironically, are like, well, you just have to beat capitalism out of existence. You have to like re-educate the capitalists, and if they refuse, kill them, because if they exist at all, they're a threat. So both of them are just wacky. That's really why the main fight I fight for is just like intellectualism, liberalism. If you're on that spectrum, I really don't care. I think a lot of our problems right now are caused by people entering the authoritarian spectrum. So you're getting a lot of like far right people that are no longer liberal right wing. They're now authoritarian right wing, so they don't believe in a rule of law anymore. They believe in a rule by authority. And same thing, you're getting a lot of far left people that are leaving liberal ideas and are entering into like actual communism and socialist ideas. So that's the thing. I think a lot of the confusion with socialism is people just don't understand what they are talking about when they use that label. So like people who are just far left liberals will call themselves socialists because they just want free healthcare. The government's your friend until it isn't. Kind of, yeah, that's the entire game of politics. We like it until it starts hurting you. Well, and even the authoritarian view, right? It's like, oh, we like this cool idea of like this strong man or strong authority coming in doing everything. But as soon as they start backfiring and attacking them, they're like, ooh, this sucks. We are in trouble now. And that's the ultimate problem with authoritarianism. If you have a rule by law where we just all agree to follow this contract in good faith because it's better for all of us, within liberalism, you know, you can ultimately, if you don't like things, you could just advocate for the law to change. But the issue with authority is you've placed all of the authority in just a single authoritarian. So the moment that person changes their mind, there's nothing you can do. So it's just game over. So yeah, I think as long as we all stay in the liberal spectrum and we're all operating under a rule of law, we're okay. Because if you don't like the government, you could ultimately advocate for a change in law. But as soon as that structure breaks, it's not good, which I think is definitely under attack right now. From both like the far right and far left, because they both leave the liberal spectrum. And it's not like all of either one, because there's still some like farther left people that are still on the liberal spectrum. They're just kind of tricked into thinking they're full-on socialist. And there's still some people that are following like the Trump movement and stuff right now, and the MAGA movement, that are just kind of tricked into thinking that movement is still like liberal or like rule of law based. And they just don't realize that it's left it yet. So I think that's where a lot of our problems are coming from. So I don't know. Confederate MP, how's it going? Christ fed 5,000 men too. Yeah, it's certainly, I think it's actually a fact of the matter that Jesus, one of the few like good things he did that all the Gospels shared was a view that he fed poor or the needy. So I would accept that as fact. If you accept that Christu or Jeshua or Jesus or Christ historically existed, I think it's fair to say that person fed the hungry. So I wouldn't dispute that fact. Hey, was gonna sleep but saw the stream and thought I'd join for a second. How have you been doing? Hey, what's up, no one? How's it going? Good to see you. I've been doing great. No reason to complain. Life's going good. Just reading, playing music, working. Work's good, so can't complain. Every day your life's a good day. But yeah, I don't dispute. That's one of the few facts you could like say from a theocratic perspective is likely true, is that Christ or Christu or whatever you hold fed 5,000 people. I think that's Well, 5,000 might be a bit too specific. It's hard to prove that, but you could say that he for sure fed poor people or people that were hungry, for sure. Like, that's undisputable. Or at least, like, you have good reason to think that's the case. Yeah, historical evidence is available. The idea that people made up Jesus 500 years ago doesn't hold. Yeah, I would certainly say that even from an atheist perspective, it's very hard to argue Jesus just straight up didn't exist at all. The question is just what theologically Jesus is, I guess. Some people claim the Middle Ages never happened. That to me is just a little bit wacky, though. Like, I don't know. To me, it's almost to the point of conspiracy theory, but... Because if you have a large, like, societal-based, like, consensus or, like, oral tradition, it's really hard to just be like, ah, that whole thing's crap. Because certainly we take some words of some people, so... Thanks for the chat. Yep, no problem. I appreciate it. But yeah, I think generally, because there's like some YouTube channel, I actually need to try to have a conversation with them. There's like this set of atheists that are unironically just arguing that Jesus just straight up never existed. Like, not even like, obviously as an atheist you can reject the godliness of Jesus, but you can accept that a Christu or Christos or Jeshua or Jesus type character existed. Liberalism is dead and we have killed it, according to Nietzsche. Yes, I think that's the quote. Liberalism is dead and we have killed it. We are what Nietzsche warned us about. I mean, he did guess what's happening right now. He was kind of like, well, if you start killing like the fundamental foundations of society and we don't come to a conclusion like right now, then you're going to ultimately get your Ubermensch type people popping up that are going to say they can fix everything. So he certainly got something right. That, honestly, I know the quote is God is dead, but that's kind of funny to put liberalism there because, yeah, I think it kind of fits. Like, once you kill meaning, you have to like encourage people to find it in a good manner somehow. And if you don't, here comes the Ubermensch that's just going to do it for you. So, yeah, I think that's kind of funny way of putting liberalism in that quote, because kind of true. Liberalism kind of requires like all of us remain rational. If some people are just like, well, what if I don't give a fuck about being rational, then liberalism starts to struggle. So you need some foundation to agree that rationalism's good. Which I will say, like, I reject the thing that, like, liberalism is innately, like, a Christian thought, or, like, Christians get to take credit for, like, all of modern society. I kind of reject that, but certainly I think Christians have, like, a more naturalist-based religion than previous religions in the past that helped ground purpose for everyone. Hey, Nitro Gold, how's it going? Because a lot of the paganist religions, like, I think Christianity just kind of adopted some of the paganist beliefs and attached it to Yahweh or the Jewish God, I think is what they did. So, I will say Christianity adopted so how high would taxes have to go to be considered socialism? 1%. Can't go higher than that. No, obviously taxes aren't socialism, but any taxes are socialism. No, even if you tax like 99%, it would be socialist. I like our system now, but I would prefer higher taxes redistributed like in Sweden. Yeah, I think we're a little bit under the Laffer curve. I think we need to like undo the Trump tax cuts. Like, as soon as we get this next Democratic president in and we get a Democratic Congress, they just need, or even if it ends up Republicans that are like want to try to like be somewhat competent again, the first thing you got to do is revoke those tax cuts. If you ever feel like reading 1 Corinthians 15 from the New Testament, do it. Maybe it will change your view on the resurrection. Isn't that just Paul's? That's one of Paul's epistles, right? That's his claim that 500 eyewitnesses saw the resurrection, I believe, if I remember off the top of my head. I was just reading the New Testament the other day, but I don't want to convince you, though. Everyone has to find their own way to God, but the Bible is a good starting point. I like your views. You seem like a clever guy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've read the Bible a decent bit. I've recently started, like, actively studying, like, not just reading, like, actually trying to, like, look up theologists and look up their translations on stuff, but, you know, I've been doing Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, I believe Book of Acts, Corinthians, and Romans, and then the Old Testament, just the Torah. Which of your debatable views are you the shakiest on? The shakiest on? How come you don't have your YouTube link on Twitch? I guess I should, because I don't really upload too many videos. I mostly just stream. I do have a few clips, but the same clips are on Twitch. Maybe I should connect them both, because I think I put my Twitch in my YouTube, so I guess I'll put my YouTube on my Twitch. Because I'm mostly just going to use that for clips. The sun's hotter than you. This reminds me of when I heard medieval beggars would have multiple hats with the names of religions on them and a sign saying which religion is the kindest or something like that. How are these people talking? YouTube Live? Yeah, it's just a live stream. Yeah, it's YouTube Live. It's just I have my chats combined so you can see all the chats from all platforms. At some point we'll start TikTok too. So you're the shakiest on which view? It'd probably have to be something I haven't argued in a while, like probably like any conspiracy theory based topic I'm gonna just be like not remembering anything on, because I haven't debated like conspiracy theorists or far right people in a while. I haven't looked at any of the newest welfare studies, so like welfare I'm going to be a little bit shaky on, because I just haven't looked at any studies on welfare in a while. Probably like union stuff I'm going to be shaky on, because I haven't debated like unions with anyone in a while. In terms of like philosophy, probably if you pick any like niche philosophical thing, like what the meaning of life is, I probably haven't done an in-depth study on it. Rent control I haven't looked at in a while. I'm just familiar with the theory of it. So like the actual studies I haven't looked at in a while. So there's a couple And also police stuff and criminology stuff I haven't looked at in a while. So, but yeah, if I like got into a debate with like conspiracy theory stuff, I'm gonna be completely clueless. So I would need to be prepared ahead of time of that type of debate. And then, because yeah, like the January 6th like apologist crap where they try to say it's like all CIA plants that caused January 6th or January 7th or whatever the fuck. I haven't looked into any of that in a while, like any of the insurrection in a while. So, once in a while I ask ChatGPT if the universe originally came from nothing. To this day, it replies, no, nothing can come from nothing. But where else could this have come from if you trace back far enough? I think you just literally can't trace back far enough. I just think it's eternally backwards. Like, you'll just keep going infinitely back if you try to trace back. Similar to how if you look at an exponential graph that's limited, going negative, it's limited to 0. You'll just be able to keep zooming in and seeing that, like, oh, it's still kind of far away from the 0 line. If you want, like, an ultimate explanation, my best model that I think is convincing is just it collapses to a wave function. So basically, like, when a infinite reaches its limit, so, like, mathematical limit, so, like, all functions have mathematical limits. So you'll have, like, a limited exponential function going negative, which could represent time. If time's eternal, eventually it'll just reach 0, but it won't ever want to stay at 0 since it's eternal. It'll kind of turn into a wave. So it'll like bounce back and forth between like 0 and like a little bit. So like 0.000001 and then back to 0. And it'll just kind of start oscillating like a wave. This is my ace in the hole over ChatGPT. Stop debating it like I'm wrong. Yeah. Yeah, because I think it's weird to say, like, yes, I think nothing can come from nothing. I think that's fair. What does rent control mean in America? Yeah, it basically means that there's certain types of housing which have limits on the amount you can raise rent by. So, like, if you live in, like, let's say Section A housing or anything like that, if you're a landlord of these, I have to go now, but I left a subscription. Maybe I'll bother you about God again sometime. Feel free. Have a good stream. God bless you. Yep, have a good one. I appreciate it. Where was I? Oh yeah, rent control. It's basically like you have a section of houses that if you're a landlord over these houses, you can't raise rent, or you have a cap that you can raise it by. So they'll basically be like, you can only raise it once a year, and you can only raise it by like a max of $50, or it could be like a literal cap of like, you can only charge a maximum of this, and the maximum changes like every year. So, and like, I'm anti-rent control, and pretty much any economist would be anti-rent control. So we have no rent controls in England and Wales, but in Scotland. So you guys have rent control in Scotland? Yep. Yeah. Rent control is not a good policy. It's definitely, it raises your prices of your housing overall. Because what happens is the landlords just stop building or buying that type of housing. And they just start making like a bunch of luxury condos and stuff that's exempt from it. And then you end up with a situation where you just literally run out of housing, which is kind of where we're at in the United States. We're just simply not building enough housing. like if you want to drop, would you be okay if inflation linked rent control for social housing? No, I wouldn't be okay with that. Any sort of like inflation controlled anything, rent control, is just a bad policy. If you want to bring down rent and you want to bring down housing costs, you just need to build more houses. It's literally that simple. The government could build more houses if you want. They could act as a contractor, but just straight up rent controlling drives up cost. I don't think it is that simple personally. I mean, mainly because you want the most profit per house. Yeah, but the most profit you can get is limited by supply and demand. So if supply and demand's in a good level, then you naturally can't get more profit. You're forced to sell. I think it needs some government incentive. I don't know. I would just need to see like any policy that would actually show like lowering it without causing broader inflation and issues. Because rent control is just like a generally agreed upon bad policy. There could be other options, but like housing first is not a bad idea, where you help people that are in bad situations, like they can qualify for like paid for housing for a year. That way they could get their life together and it shows good results. But you could just simply build them houses as well. You could just build free houses for these people. That's an option that would fix the market better. I hear living costs in the UK are really high for housing. Pretty much everywhere in Europe is. There's a few areas that aren't as bad, but Europe struggles with it. It's just hard to see why a developer would build low cost, low profit to them housing without it. Yes, it's a disaster here. We need to get rid of stamp duty for when. When did it go bad? 2026? Was it 2024, 2025? Good. I think COVID caused the housing shortage that most places are facing right now. So it's probably started in 2021 and 2022. But really since 2008, the global financial crisis, builders have went out of business, and so there's only a couple large ones left. So we have less supply and less competition. Maggie Thatcher sold social housing to tenants, which was fantastic for my family in particular. Yeah, the government could step in and build houses, but no one built new houses. But yeah, I don't know. The rent control stuff, if you just drive down you could either drive down demand, which would probably suck, or you could drive up supply. I mean, and like the reason, like I'm in new construction, I'm building a lot of houses. I see what's happening. Like places don't want to just sit on houses, because if you sit on a house, there's maintenance involved to sit on it, and also taxes. So like developers want to sell as fast as they can. And the thing right now is there's just so little supply that people are going to inevitably just buy whatever they can because they're forced to. So the developers aren't forced to build more houses right now. They're just not. I know it's a really annoying answer, but I vote for my local MP based on what they do for my community. I'd put myself economically center right and socially center left. That's a fairly, that's a very good view, I think. The most mundane European position. Yeah, I think that I'd probably what's funny is I'd end up in like the same camp probably. ChatGPT came up with a good solution in the USA for lowering housing costs. It believes that we should tax land that isn't being used. Well, good job, ChatGPT. It's like we already do that with property taxes. It reinvented property tax. It is what it is. I like the welfare state, but it needs to be managed responsibly. Is that called Georgism or something? If you're in that camp, I think you're probably... I don't even know what that philosophy would be called, or like broader belief would be called. It's probably just like liberalism, or just like geoliberalism or something. I don't know. I might have heard about it in a YouTube video. Just take all of the land and make it mine. Yep. Georgism is something to do with taxing land. It might be. I completely forget. Like, there is an economic theory about it. I don't remember what the economic theory is called. Economic theory in defense of property tax. It is Georgism. Henry George. Look at that. It's also defended by Adam Smith, David Ricardo. Most popularized by Henry George. The defense of property tax. What were those two things? I think Starmer made some absolutely wild mistakes. ESP over the 2-child cap and winter fuel allowance, but I don't think he's anywhere near as bad as people made out. When he took over the Labour Party, genuinely looked like it might not be able to continue, and he inherited the biggest economic from the Tories ever. Biggest economy from the Tories. He introduced means testing for pensioners to get extra money for fuel in winter, which isn't actually a massive thing, but politically it was so stupid. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's good to know. The defense of property taxes is called Georgism. The 2-child cap is we used to tax child benefit credits, etc. at 2 children. And he expanded it to all kids, and basically income tax is now outstripped by welfare spend. Yeah, I think winter fuel tax credit. Is a tax-free government benefit. You must be born before a specific date. The winter fuel payment. So it's based on someone's date of birth and place of residence. Certain categories of people are excluded, including prisoners, people receiving long-term free hospital care, and care home residents. Universal payoff. Huh. It was seen as stealing from pensioners. I could kind of get why if you means test it, because some people can't get it, but all it was in effect was the top 3% didn't get a government subsidy for their fuel in winter to keep warm. Because people saw it, and it was framed as Starmer taking money away from old people and giving it to refugees, etc. Oof. Well, what's crazy about that is even if you look at it, they made it so that if you had certain immigration statuses, it looks like you can't get it either. So it was a very stupid policy because it saved very little money and was complete political kryptonite. Yeah, I see why that move was bad. The benefit would only be given to those in receipt of pension credit or others means-tested benefits. This removed the benefit from around 10 million pensioners. That is quite a lot of people to remove the credit from, so I see why that could be a bad political move. Pensioner impacts. Would result in more people ending up in the hospital. Huh. Legal challenge. The hearing was scheduled to take place at the Court of Session. At the end of November, Lawyers for Unite, the trade union, asked for the High Court for an urgent judicial review of the policy. The government should have been more thorough in gathering evidence. They said they had members. Huh. Hey Parker, how's it going? A B C D E F G. Yes, I like the alphabet too. Or the, I guess like a C major scale beginning on A for some reason. Or I guess that would just be the A minor scale. The more you know. The king must nominate the prime minister. How is the prime minister elected in the UK? I need to freaking read more about UK politics. The reading list is just too freaking long now. Are they elected? Oh, it does need a royal appointment. That's wild. Whoa. That's just wacky. Why would you ever let a monarchy elect your prime minister? That's wild. I see why people are anti-monarchy now. Or want it removed. I did not realize that the royal family still had a say in the prime minister's stuff. That's kind of weird. Same, I thought it was no say. Yeah. Like, how the heck is that still democratic monarchy if the monarch could just be like, fuck your prime minister. Pick a different one I like. That's pretty fucked up. The monarch also has a sit-down meeting with the prime minister once a week. I don't like that. See, this is... dang UK politics. This is why the United States broke away from you guys. This wacky stuff right here. But, yeah, that's crazy. If I lived in the UK, I'd be like, what the fuck? Get rid of this monarchy. Or if, like, the royal family, if you're going to keep it out of tradition, like, they can't fuck with this stuff. It's completely ceremonial. The king or queen has no real power over UK politics. I would hope so, but if they still... Let's see. Royal appointment. So, like, if the monarchy just doesn't offer an appointment, does the prime minister still get elected? Like, it's just like a formal thing of like, oh, the monarchy likes this dude or whatever, or like you have the approval of them. Probably not, but it would never happen. I don't know. You get the right person in there, eventually it'll happen, I'm sure. I mean, right now it sounds like it's just kind of tradition stopping it, but if some new royal family member is just like, fuck that, and decides to stop a prime minister, I don't even know, would you guys even be prepared to deal with that? Or like, is there something you could do to overturn their decision? If a monarch tried to pull that, they'd be arrested and overthrown in 15 minutes. I would hope so. I don't know if... Or, excuse me, unthrown, not overthrown. I don't know if unthroned is a word, to be honest. I heard a 308 is effective at overturning decisions. 308 would be an effective solution for overturning a solution. Probably not the correct one, but yeah, it is a method, and it's a very effective method. Or get you a more stable flight round if you're trying to be a little bit more accurate. Get you a 6.5 Creedmoor. Thought 50 cal has more pizzazz. Oh yeah, you would, that's definitely, that'll make a big point. You get like a nice incendiary round, 50 cal, send it through the head of the person. That'll, I should be saying that. Even in a joking manner. I don't know, no one reads TOS anyway, but I gotta be careful. Like, you talk about how mad this system is, but we have never had anything like January 6th. That's true. Make them do a backflip and a giant explosion of their head too. We don't nitro, it's a high trust system, I guess. For now, although I think I'm starting to see a little bit of what's happening in the US happening in Europe now, but we'll see. I think you guys are going to get it too, but hopefully not. Hopefully it's just a U.S. craziness, but I think most people in Europe still accept liberalism and rule of law, but the United States is getting pretty wacky, and we're fairly influential, so I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't come to you guys. I hope not. But the U.S. tends to be a trendsetter, so I would be a little bit worried in Europe. It's fine, I'm just memeing. No, I played Sniper Elite. It's gotta be a PP shot. We don't have the power to extend the arm the way America does, but right-wing populism is rampant and understoppable here. First, I'd abolish TV dues. First, I'd abolish stamp duty. Fix the UK, get rid of TV license. But yeah, I hope it never heads over to Europe. It's a tax on buying a house. So like a sales tax, or is it like a tax on top of a sales tax? We need lower taxes, especially corporate tax. We need lower energy prices. We need to balance our welfare with our taxes. I don't know. I have not looked at the UK tax structure. I'm going to be kind and not give voice to my intrusive thoughts. Very virtuous. It's a tax the buyer pays when they buy a house, and it's very annoying. If it's on top of sales tax, I would say that would be pretty annoying. Paying a tax after you already paid tax is pretty wild. That just doesn't even make sense to me. We have an extremely progressive tax system that is now a middle-class burden. Oh, thanks for the subscription, Michael Fracker. Appreciate it. Dang, I didn't even know. You guys do not have to subscribe. I very much appreciate you doing that. New subscribers, how long have you been doing these live streams? On YouTube, I think it's been like maybe a couple of months. Twitch, I used to stream like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, kind of stopped and started again for the past like year or so. But yeah, just been a general like, I was back in the original like duking it out Trump election, Trump round 2 and Trump round 1, I think. So I was in political live streaming for a while on Twitch. I think back when Andrew Wilson wasn't as popular, he came into my stream when he still was going by, like, everyone knew him as Big Papa Fascist. So I've been streaming for a decent while now, but on Twitch, but YouTube's newer. At some point we'll add TikTok to it, I guess, as well. But you gotta pay for that, and we'll wait on that, because work time is, you know, sucks to spend that money. You gotta use it for better things first. But hopefully we could get back into political streaming and get back to where I was. I think I'm sure Andrew Wilson probably thinks I'm a bit crazy because I had some wild views back then, so I doubt we'll ever get a conversation with him again, but or him ever coming into my chat. But he's probably even banned on Twitch. I don't know if Big Papa Fascist is even like allowed on Twitch anymore. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't know, and it seems like the new landscape's changed a bit. It's like a whole new world in terms of politics from when I originally did it, and philosophy. So the modern era, there's a whole new level of anti-intellectualism that's just like a whole new world. Our state pension goes up 2.5% a year, and it's a massive burden. 2.5% is 0.5% above inflation mandate. Please stop ban evading. I don't want AI viewers, please. An AI selling AI viewers. Gotta love it. Gotta love the 21st century. But yeah, I don't know. I've been streaming for a while, but I took a big break because my job's super time consuming. I'm a plumber, so, and HVAC tech. Although I haven't been doing HVAC stuff for a while. Been mostly doing new construction, mechanical stuff. So, you know, very time consuming job. It's not like before when I worked a little bit more freeing job. But the money's better doing plumbing, so gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, we've been streaming for a while. Main point of the stream has always been just like make sure people are more rational. Is it true that those fields are better than going to college? Ooh, no, I would not say it's innately better than going to college. I think most of the people encouraging people to stop going to college don't know what they're talking about. They just, because they're speaking from a perspective of they got lucky and became like successful without going to college, they think that's going to happen to the average person, and it's just not. If you go to a community college, so like I'll give you an example of a degree you could get right now that will let you earn like $80,000 a year with just 2 years of community college. If you go to become an engineering technician, like not even like a full-on engineer, if you're just a technician that like implements the engineer's ideas for them, you will make like $80,000 a year. Or if you become an electromechanical technician and work on like robots, you'll make like $90,000 a year with only 2 years of community college. And you shouldn't even need to really take on debt for that. And you will earn about the same or more as a plumber with a simpler job, or an electrician, or any other trade. What I will tell you, CAD operator, yeah, that's another example. If you get like any sort of like CAD certification, any sort of engineering technician certification or diploma, yeah, and you're also going to be able to get a job, and they will pay for your schooling to go back to school and get your bachelor's in engineering and eventually your master's. So you secure a pathway to become an engineer for very little investment on your part. That would just be one example. But nursing's another way to do it. You could go and become like a like lower level, just like helper, or I guess like any like just entry level nursing type position or healthcare position, and get your nursing degree paid for. And you could become a nurse with very little college payment on your part. So I wouldn't say that the trades are like some like get rich quick, or like some automatic like, oh, you don't even have to pay for school. The wages in the trades are very polarized, meaning the average people are telling you is being skewed by the top earners. You either make shit money in the trades or you make amazing money. There's like no in between. Because you're either like you went to the schooling that's required, you got all your certifications, you get all your licenses, which a lot of companies, unless you're in the union, you're going to have to pay some of that yourself. And you have to pay for all your tools usually. Even if you're in the union, you got to eventually get your own tools. I guess it was more about making money 4 years on and not having debt. Honestly, most of the people I know in the trades have a lot of debt because a lot of them try to start their own businesses or get their licenses, and you have to take out a huge amount of debt to do that, or just have hundreds of thousands of dollars laying around to do it. And I think that you need, a lot of guys have tool debt and they have schooling debt that's just taken out of their paycheck instead of like actual like bank debt. So I don't know. And like, especially if you become like a mechanic, every mechanic I know has tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in tool debt. Like, they're probably as in debt on their tools as the average college student is on their student loans. Thanks for the insights. Yeah, no problem. I'll tell you, the trades are good if you're going to, if you're like a high achieving person, like you want to learn as much as possible, and like you're that type of person anyway. Like, if you got good grades in school, an option for you is the trades. It's just not like innately better than college. Because the only way the trades are going to be actually good for you is if you get all the licenses, take all the schooling, dual trade, and work your way up to either owning your own company or being like a superintendent or foreman. Or become an estimator and just sell, because they're the ones that drive up the wages. The people that sell the jobs make all the money. The guys that install the stuff make nothing. So if you know how to estimate and sell, you could make shit tons of money. But you could do that in anything. You could go become a car salesman at that point, and you don't need to go to college for that. And you would be better off becoming a car salesman if you just care about money. You wouldn't destroy your body. You would learn how to sell. So, yeah, I think in general, high-achieving people are going to make a lot of money no matter where they go, even if it's college. And just the average person is just going to make an average amount of money no matter where they go, whether it's the trades or college. It really doesn't matter. So don't let people trick you into, oh, look at this cool way you could go. No. If you hate the idea of a desk job and you like working with your hands and you're genuinely interested in how structures are built, the construction trades are good for you, especially if you don't have the patience to sit at a desk and like learn engineering. A trade job is a good way to get involved with construction and design without going to school. But it's only going to pay off for you in the long run if you actually get all the certifications and are genuinely interested in learn. So it goes back to the thing of just try a bunch of stuff and do what you like to do. And if you get very good at it, you'll make a lot of money. Because if you learn how to sell whatever you're good at to someone, it's worth something. That's the beauty of capitalism. If you could sell it, you can make money. So I don't know. I just think it's people that are like, oh, look at these cool trades, but like they've never done it themselves, so they're just kind of like, they just don't understand the numbers they're looking at. And like, there's no plumber, like actually working plumber, that isn't a foreman, superintendent, or estimator that's genuinely making like well into the six figures. It just doesn't exist. Even in like commercial plumbing, which in industrial. And same thing with HVAC. It's just not going to happen. Like, I think even the guys that work on ammonia systems, which if those systems leak and you're exposed to it, you just die. So you're putting your life in danger. You only get paid like $40 an hour, 50 an hour to put your life actively in danger of where if you walk up on a roof and you're exposed to ammonia gas, you're just gonna fall over dead. And you're only getting paid 50 an hour to do that. And people hear 50 an hour and they compare that to like McDonald's and they're like, oh, that's good, but it's really not. That's like not even six figures. It's still like, I think like under 100,000 a year to risk your life every day. It's crazy. Hey Jesse Polstra, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. But yeah, just don't let people trick you into thinking college is innately bad. Damn. Yeah. It's not what you think it is. So just don't let people online trick you about the trades and think that that there's some magic ticket to not have to go to college. Like, you're gonna put your life and body at risk and in danger for like 50,000 to 100,000 a year. Like, that's crazy. Same thing with like a firefighter. Like, firefighters make like 30,000 a year and they're actively putting their life in danger. Like, it's just not the type of thing you want to do unless you genuinely love what you're doing or are like interested in that type of work. So I like building stuff. I like working with my hands, and I like solving puzzles and problems. And I don't have the patience to go sit at a desk job to solve problems. So, society, do you mean us or the world? Society, do you mean socialism or just society in general? USA. Yeah, I get that, but there's money to be made here. Yeah, I think socialism sucks for the world. Is what I would say is that Jesse Polstra. But yeah, just don't let people trick you on the trades thing. College is still valuable. Intellectualism's valuable. Like, being able to critically think is an important skill. Like, the number of plumbers that just, and like HVAC techs and electricians that just can't make money because they're literally not educated. They're just simply unable to handle complex problem solving. They just can never make more than 50 or 60,000 a year. So you're just sort of screwed. Like, college, even community college, just take a few philosophy classes and like just take some speech classes, just work your brain, even if you don't get a degree, is enough to help you. So college is super valuable. Like, and thankfully a lot of states now in the United States, and I think several places around the world, have started adding like college course options in high school. Like, you should take those, work your brain, because even if you go into the trades, if you can't critically think, like, you're just not going to be trusted to do anything important. Because I see it all day doing my job, guys that just, there's no thought process at all when they are doing stuff. It's just like a new experiment every job they do. So yeah, just don't fall into that trap. The trades make okay money, but you just do it if you don't like a desk job. If you're cool with just thinking and not doing anything physical for like your life, then college is good for you. Like, become a software engineer, focus on AI, because you're going to probably be implementing AI algorithms for people is going to be the only part left of the computer science jobs, and maybe cybersecurity. You could also go into the Army as well in the United States or any country and get your college or get a little bit of experience in a type of job. You could become you could work on airplanes or something and be trained to do that in the Air Force. Like, there's plenty of things you could do. The trades aren't some magic ticket. But I think it's fair to say that college isn't the only path. It's just like college isn't bad, or like it's not something you shouldn't do. It's just you need to make a choice and think about what you want in life. Do you want more of a desk job, or do you want more of a physical job? Do you like problem solving, or do you like puzzles? Do you like, what do you like to do? You just have to ask yourself that. Because if you like problem solving more than like puzzle solving, and what I mean by that is like investigative type work, so you like, oh, I have this issue, I need to figure out the cause of it, then you could absolutely become like a service HVAC tech and do great, because you're going to learn everything about it. Thinking more about my kids, I'm a civil engineer. Yeah, like, I mean, they could go into the trades and like, if they're genuinely going to attempt to learn and try hard in life in general, I mean, they're going to do great. Too much stress for the cheapest of engineers. Yeah, civil engineering's gotta suck. Like, I work in mostly construction, so I'd imagine dealing with most of the like permitting and road projects and all this stuff is just such a headache. And there's so much like push, do it cheaper, do it cheaper. Like, yeah, that's gotta suck, being in civil engineering. I think the problem in the U.S. is just college is just expensive. If you will not make it in a long time. Yeah, I think like if you just made like entry level community college free for everyone, it would help a lot of people, because there's plenty of jobs you could get with just community college that are fairly fun to work. Like, you could work on robotics and stuff like that. Exactly. Yeah. Because you could work on robotics, you could become like an entry level, you could become a radiation technician. Like, there's so many cool jobs you could get with just 2 years of free college, or just really, really cheap guaranteed college. Like, you're only responsible for your textbooks. The government pays your tuition. Like, yeah, I think, I don't know. I think that's really the big issue in the U.S. So for the U.S., like, the trades are an okay option, because like the money can come out of your check each week instead of like a total predatory loan. So it's a little bit more manageable for people. Like, because if you go into the trades, like, to get to where I am, to where you're not having to just be like a grunt and just like be a pipe fitter, or like dig all the trenches, or like hop in them and do all the hard work, you have to actually like learn to sell, you have to learn to estimate, so you have to actually be able to like read blueprints, so you have to take some classes or do it again and again and actually try to learn. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you could go into the trades and just be a helper forever, but which there are plenty of guys that do that. They'll literally just tell you, I don't want to learn any of that crap. Just give me the pipe, I'll put it together. And if that's your attitude in life, it doesn't matter if you go to college or go into the trades, you're just going to be the lowest on the totem pole wherever you go. But if you're someone that's like, ooh, let me learn how to do this, you're going to succeed whether you go to college or go into the trades. It's just the unfortunate part is the upfront investment, and having to get a predatory loan in the United States is a little bit rough. But you could still pay slowly, or just go to community college and work a part-time job, start building experience. Like, there's ways to pay for college. It's just, unfortunately, you can't go to like the top university. It's just not available for everyone, which means not everyone has the privilege of becoming like the next new doctor, lawyer. It's just not in the cards for everyone, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, I don't know. I guess that's my view on it, as someone being in the trades and as someone that's taken a few college courses and who's done like the trades courses and kind of seen schooling from both a trades perspective and a college, like formal liberal university perspective. I don't know. You're just going to achieve highly if you have a good attitude no matter what you do. So that's the only advice I could really give to someone, is just think about what you actually want. And if you learn everything in it, you're going to be worth a lot of money, because there's plenty of people that just don't want to learn how to do this stuff. So like if you become a plumber and you learn how to work on like the newer model tankless water heaters without having to call support, or if you're an HVAC tech and you learn how to do both residential and commercial and industrial, and you can learn how to do like the fire alarm alert systems, and you can learn how to do low voltage stuff, like, man, I mean, you're just going to be so valuable, because you can now do any job someone asks you to do. So, and if anything, you're going to become the guy that everyone else has to call to get stuff done, so you become even more important. So, yeah. That's pretty much the only way to really make a lot of money in the trades. So, unfortunately, it's just kind of like a lie. Like, most of the people in the trades are not making a lot of money, unfortunately, and they're ruining their bodies and putting their lives in danger to do it. The only people making good money are people that actually go through like the union training programs, or go through like trade school and like actually learn how to like not just do the stuff, but know how it works, so they can go past the master license exam. And more certificates equals more money, basically. And you usually have to pay for those certifications yourself, but there's some companies that once you prove that you can get through the basic schooling, will start paying for your higher licensing. But you have to pass like an initial licensure exam usually before they start paying for your additional certifications. So, like for instance, in my home state of Ohio, like you would have to pay for your own like master license after 5 years at most companies, even in like the union, I think. But like once you get that, a lot of them will like pay for additional licensure, like backflow licensure, or they'll pay for like your gas licensure and stuff like that. And some of them will send you to school to become a CDL driver, because that way you can haul all the heavy equipment, which means you need to go to trucking school and get your Class A. That way you can pull backhoes and stuff, drive the dump trucks. The more you get, the more you're worth. But yeah, I mean, that's generally the thing, though, is most of the people in the trades don't want to do that. So there's certainly room for ambitious people. So if someone gets really good grades and they show that they're willing to learn in school, then it's certainly an option for them to go into the trades. Because after 5 years, when they get their master license, they're going to stop having to do the grunt work. So they're not going to be putting their lives in danger anymore. So it'll actually be worth it for them. And they'll probably make a lot of money. Like some superintendents can make like $75 an hour. So it just kind of depends if you're union, non-union, commercial, residential. Stuff like that. Large project, small project. Remodel, service. Service is where all the money is, because you could sell people stuff, but you have to be okay with selling people stuff, which a lot of people aren't. Because you basically have to be okay with like even like going into like a struggling person's house or elderly person's house and charging them a lot of money. So a lot of people just can't bring themselves to do it, so they can't make a lot of money. So that's really who's driving up the average wages, unfortunately, in the trades. It's kind of shitty. They're basically like salesmen that instead of selling cars chose to become plumbers. And then they start selling like 90-year-old women $20,000 tankless water heater installs, or like $10,000 filter installs on their houses. So fortunately, that's where a majority of your money is going to be in the trades. If you're not willing to do that, then your max limit's going to be about the same as going to college. Maybe even significantly lower depending on what trade you're in. In the north, like, becoming a plumber is very profitable. In the south, becoming an electrician or HVAC tech is very profitable. Just kind of depends on your area. Because, like, in the north, since it gets so much colder in the United States and even other countries, so like if you're in Europe, plumbers usually get paid the most because all of our stuff has to be buried so deep to not freeze. And like concrete workers can actually make fairly good money in northern states because concrete like has to be a little bit more meticulously done and is a little bit thicker usually. So you usually sell bigger jobs. But in the south where you don't need the same like resistance to weather with your concrete, you don't make as much money as a concrete worker. And it's hotter down there, so your job's just more miserable and you make less money. But if you're in the north, concrete work can be good. It's just in the winter you struggle to find jobs. So it's kind of seasonal is the problem. So you risk getting laid off and you got to find another job every winter. Or you only get like a job a week. What percentage of those who go independent are still around after 3 years, or do they just go back to a large company again? Most people end up going back. I think it's like 90% of trade businesses fail within the first like 3 to 5 years. And the reason for that is because most plumbers are good plumbers and most electricians are good electricians. But like they go on to become a business owner, they aren't good business owners. They only ever learned how to do the job. They didn't learn how to run a company, so they end up failing after a while. My state tries to mitigate that. Like you have to pass a business exam to get your master license to start a company. And I think several other states have adopted that. But unfortunately, like just being in the trades, a lot of guys are like, oh, this all sucks. I'm treated crap. I'm going to just go do it myself. I could do it for cheaper. And then they go out of business. And then they realize, oh, I can't do it for cheaper. So I might as well just go back to the company. Because, well, I guess I understand it now. So, yeah, I see plenty of guys I work with and have worked with that try to start their company. And they come back to the exact same company again because they're like, yeah, I just ran out of jobs. I wasn't making enough money consistently. I had a few good weeks, but I might as well come back here. So it's just kind of unfortunate. If you want to be a good business owner, you have to research and be a good business owner. You can't just be like, well, I'm a good plumber. I'm going to make money out on my own. It doesn't work that way. And like, if you're going to be a service plumber or service HVAC tech, you need hundreds of thousands in tools and vehicles to actually start a company. Like, especially if you want to do underground work, you need to buy a backhoe or an excavator or lease it or rent it. You're going to be spending like 70 grand on a backhoe. Like, and you're going to be in debt on that backhoe unless you have 70 grand laying around, which most people don't because they're not paid enough as apprentices to save 90 grand. So, yeah. Also, vans are incredibly expensive, or service trucks. Like a new truck now is like $70,000. And even if you don't buy new, you buy used trucks, you're still going to be paying $20,000 or $30,000 a truck. Then you got to pay an increased registration cost because it's a commercial grade truck. And that doesn't include, like, if you're going to be an HVAC guy and you're going to do commercial installs, you either need to know someone who can operate and owns a crane that you can pay per job as a subcontractor, or you need to get a crane and rigging and lifting equipment, which is an insane cost. Or you have to rent it every time, and you're not going to be able to outcompete the bigger companies that already own those things. You're going to have to charge like triple what they're charging. So you're just kind of like doomed. So yeah, unfortunately, money management is not great in the trade. So people inevitably just end up failing. So you have to learn to be a good business owner if you're going to make a lot of money in anything. Even if you want to start your own like architecture firm or engineering firm or something like that, or you're going to start your own medical practice, you have to learn how to be a business owner to do any of these things. Even if you study this trade or schooling for years, it doesn't teach you how to own the business. But I think a lot of places have realized this. So a lot of states require business courses to get your license now. So that way they're not setting you up for failure. So yeah, like I have a business textbook I have to study before I go get my license. And then you have to pass that exam first, and then you have to pass your like knowledge exam as well. So yep, I think generally you just I don't know, people just like to see the money in the trades. They look at the average and they're like, ooh, that's a really cool thing to do. But I don't know, to those people that are making all that money have a lot of certifications, and they've spent a lot of their own money on their own tools and their own training to become better than everyone else. So if you're not willing to spend that money to do that, then you're going to be stuck as a ditch digger for 30 years and hopefully be able to retire, maybe. So you just have to be careful. But I don't know. It just kind of depends. Also depends on the trade and everything. Carpenters get screwed a lot in most states, so like that's just a rough trade to get into. Finish carpenters are okay, but man, any sort of like structural framer or anything like that, good luck. And concrete workers in the South get screwed. I mean, yeah. And a lot of it is because, you know, for a long time the trades were treated as like, this is where you go if you didn't, like if you just sucked at school. So a lot of the people in the trades have bad attitudes. So there's certainly room for people with good attitudes, but you have to have that good attitude or you're just going to end up as the same statistic. It's like you're not going to see that average pay. So like I'm on track to make good money because I'm going to hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years be dual traded. I'll be able to do sheet metal and plumbing, so I'll be like an all-in-one mechanical guy. Basically anything on your mechanical print that as an engineer or architect you would write, I would be able to install it for you. So I should be fairly valuable to most companies. But that's just because I learned both. And I'm like, I want to get the licenses and stuff. If I was just like, I'm cool working for this company, just give me a shovel or give me the pipe or give me the sheet metal, I'll go put it in real quick. If that was my attitude, like, I'm not going to be on track to make any extra money. It's just not like, no. That average wage is like, they need to like fix how they report that average wage. They really do. And even if you look at median, it's still skewed because it's so split. It's like everyone is either making a lot of money or bad money. There's like yeah, it's just like a bimodal curve, like. So, I don't know. I would just tell anyone looking to get into the trades, be careful. Like, it's good to do, and I don't regret doing it, but you have to have the right attitude. And, like, the anti-intellectualism happening where people are just like, fuck college, or that's rotting your brain. They just don't understand what they're saying. Because even all the people that make good money in what I do are critical thinkers that could actually read plans and can actually, like, solve a problem. They haven't just done it out of repetition 30 times and, like, so they just walk up and, like, do what they do. They can actually be called or asked questions and come up with an answer. So, but yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, just the case for everything. You have to just be useful in whatever you do. The more useful you are, the more you're worth. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I need to do like an actual like YouTube video on it at some point, like the truth of the trades and like a perspective of an apprentice and coming out of apprenticeship, moving into journeyman and completing my PhDC program and everything. So I don't know. You just have to be careful. Don't let people trick you. It's certainly good if you get good grades in college, or excuse me, high school, and you're like a dedicated person and you just like learning, you're gonna succeed whether you go into the trades or college. So you just got to decide which one you like better. So I personally like working with my hands and like being more involved in the actual doing more than the planning. So, but you know, it's going to come down to the person. Some people are just going to like purely planning. So if that's the case, you'd be better off going to college and trying to become an engineer, CAD guy, or something. So I don't know. It's tough to say. But yeah, whenever I see someone online talking about trade stuff, I'm usually like, you guys just don't know what you're talking about. Oh, go become a plumber. You'll make $130,000 a year. Or you'll make $100,000. It's like, no. Maybe a few of the people, but most likely you'll get trapped into the bad attitude everyone else has. It's just kind of like be there and just kind of get beaten down and be like, okay, just hand me the shovel. I'm done. Whatever. Just tell me what to do. So, yeah. And it's also, I don't know. I could go on and on. I need to make a video at some point and just be like, here's like what the trades are actually like, and here's how you can succeed, because people just tell you to go into the trades are setting you up for failure. It's also, I would say, you're setting someone up for failure if you just say go to college. Like, okay, if you're going to college, you're going there because you want to learn and improve your critical thinking skills and hopefully eventually pick something you like. But you still have to, like, do that. Like, you can't go to college and just go to college and just, like, slog through the courses and expect good outcomes. At least not in the modern United States. I don't think that's possible. Because most companies have realized that, like, simply having a degree is, like, not enough. Like, you have to actually have certifications and you have to actually have demonstrated skills. So a lot of them are even, like, done paying people with degrees. They just, like, oh, go to school and get an associate's or get a certification, and, like, we're just going to do a lot of the work that, like, would have been done by, like, you know, an engineer, or by a doctor, or by a nurse. We're just going to give that to some dude who's hyper specialized in it. Like, you're going to get someone who just knows how to do 3D printing, and you're going to pay a technician to just 3D print because it's cheaper than paying someone, you know, with an engineering degree to go 3D print for you. Like, or to be a CAD worker and make blueprints. Like, why would you do that when you could instead have the engineer like come up with the general idea or be like, yes, this will work or this will not. You go write out this blueprint for me and make it official. Like, you might as well specialize all that. So that's one thing. It's just like we live in a specialized economy, so companies care more about the specialization than they do just a general degree or your general knowledge anymore, which I think is kind of sad, but like it's kind of inevitable. And a lot of it comes back to just people devaluing like intellectualism or just like being able to critically think. Companies miss that. They don't know how to pay properly for someone who's truly intelligent, I guess. And they don't value it enough. They just value being able to be specialized and do the one thing again and again. So, but yeah, I don't know. Hey, what's up, Ascend Apologetics? Do you know the tag argument or the transcendental argument for God? Yes, I do. Yep, basically, none of the transcendental properties of things work without God. So, reasoning, logic, stuff like that, math. None of that works without God. I don't think I've seen the formal syllogism for it in a while, but yeah, I'm familiar with that argument. It's actually the argument that kept me kept me more religious for a while. It was a difficult argument, but I think ultimately, how would you refute it? I think it ultimately leads to circularity instead of brute fact. So like its base premise is just self-evidently false. So like using the transcendental argument would be showing me that you don't believe that reasoning doesn't work without God, because you're reasoning to God through the transcendental argument. So you're kind of presupposing reasoning within the argument. So essentially, if reasoning didn't work without God, I have no reason to do anything. I should just kind of wait around until God eventually reveals something to me. Or I just have to accept some circular premise of like, oh yeah, I reasoned my way to God, but that only worked because of God. It's like, okay, that's just circular then. I don't think it's the same as a brute fact. Like, I think, there's brute facts of the matter that don't require any grounding. They just simply are. So I think that also refutes it. Like, you can't refute the not operator. It's just like a brute fact. Because, like, if I said I need God in order for the not operator to work, that would make no sense. Because the not operator is still going to exist. Because you would have to say the not operator does not exist if God does not exist. Okay, what the hell do you mean by not? Circularity is sort of necessary within epistemology. Am I wrong? No, I don't. Yeah, I think that you need brute fact, not circularity. So what I mean by that is there's brute facts. Like, they're self-evidently true. It's not that they're circular. It's different. So, like, the not operator. In order to speak the not operator out of existence, you have to use the not operator. Which is different than circularity, because circularity is just saying this is the case because this is the case. But if you say this just is the case, simplicator, there's no circularity present. It basically follows like an inference rule or like an argument style of like reductio ad absurdum. that like you just simply can't not do it. So yeah, like if you try to think to yourself like, okay, the not operator doesn't exist, okay, you would have to say the not operator does not exist or doesn't exist, which is just a conjunction of does and not. So what the hell do you mean by not there if not doesn't exist? I like T-Jump's starting point of law of identity and non-contradiction are brute fact principles that all else can stem from. Yeah, that's my general belief as well. That refutation is also circular because according to Christianity, God is self-evident according to the Bible. No, it's not circular. Something being self-evident is different than circularity. Like circular, like if the not operator was circular, if someone asked me, how do you know the not operator exists? If I just went, the not operator exists because the not operator exists, that would be circular. But if you say the not operator does not exist because the very statement not does not exist is absurd. So you're arguing from a different thing other than circularity. You're using reductio ad absurdum. That like you literally can't do that. It's absurd to think that. So it's not circular, it's a reductio. It's different. And even like the Christian belief that God is self-evident, that could be true, but you would need to demonstrate how God is self-evident. That is not guaranteed to be circular. It's only circular if you say God is real because God is real. That's circular. But if you say God is a brute fact, that is not circular. That's a proposition, and you need to prove that proposition true or false, which can be done through reductio ad absurdum. So if you could put forward a brute fact syllogism about God, yes, that would make God a brute fact and you would prove God. And like if someone did that, I would just be like, oh, okay, I guess I'm a Christian or I guess I'm a theist now. But that's the thing. You have to put forward an argument. You can't just say God is real because God is real. You have to say God is real because it's a brute fact. So like me trying to speak God out of existence, I would have to speak him into existence. You'd have to demonstrate how that's the case. Which I don't think I've ever seen anyone do, which is why I refute the transcendental argument or tag argument. I think people have tried, and I think the best orthodox argument was very tricky. It's like a six premise syllogism. But I haven't seen anyone make the argument in a long time. But you were saying that P1 of tag is self-evidently false. I would say that you are presupposing the falsehood of the Bible because P1 of tag can be extrapolated from the text. Yes, I would be presupposing the falsehood of the Bible. Yes. Well, no, I would be presupposing the logic doesn't work, which I would have reason to do that, and it wouldn't be circular reasoning. So, like, all I'm simply saying is that God can't be self-evidently true by simply saying God is real because God is real. That is a false statement. Or saying that reasoning is needed for God because God is needed for reasoning, that would be circular. You need to demonstrate how, like, me not believing in God results in a lack of use of reasoning. If you can't demonstrate that, then I have no reason to suspect that that's the case. Again, you need to demonstrate God as a brute fact. Like, I can demonstrate the not operator is a brute fact through reductio ad absurdum. Same thing, I can demonstrate that, like, the law of identity is a brute fact. And there's just different brute facts you could arrive at, basically. And they're not circular. They're just the case because of reductio ad absurdum. That, like, you're just simply not communicating anything if you don't use them. It would sort of be like walking up to someone and just saying random words like bleep, blorp, bloop, blop. Well, clearly you don't believe that you're saying that, or you wouldn't be saying it. So there's something there, so you need to tell me what it is. Otherwise, you might as well just walk up to me and say bleep, blorp, bleep, blop. So, yeah. Lack of belief in God is a lack of reason because you're discarding the preconditions of reason. But that's a circular argument. You would need to demonstrate that to be the case. Like, how is it that God does not exist? Therefore, all words are bleep, blop, bleep, bloop. There's no reasoning behind them. I need to see, like, a demonstration of that. Oh, shoot. Like, you could certainly still argue that, like, the cosmological argument or a different type of argument is true. To just say that, like, oh, God just simply created the universe. But I have no reason to suspect this reasoning just suddenly collapses without God. I need to see the syllogism that says that. That isn't circular. It can't be God is a lack of reason, or like not believing in God is definitionally just a lack of reason. You need to demonstrate how that is not a lack, or how that is a lack of reason. Lack of belief in God is a lack of reason because you're discarding the preconditions of reason. I have no reason to believe that to be the case, though. There's no ought or reason why I would suspect that. You need to demonstrate it. It's essentially saying, like, I don't believe in reason because I don't believe in reason. What is your evidence that logical laws are brute fact? I just gave you one. I could probably make a similar argument for why God is a brute fact. Yeah, so I'll repeat the not operator one again. The not operator is a brute fact because in order to say that not does not exist, speaks not into existence. So you can't say that not does not exist, because if you do, what the hell does the word not there mean? That's absurd. It's reductio ad absurdum. You might as well have just said not does bleep bloop exist. Okay, what the hell does bleep bloop mean? So it's just simply the case. Because failure to do so would be a reductio. You can't do that. So could you demonstrate God is the same way? Like if I say God does not exist, or if I say God is self-evident, because to say God does not exist like presupposes the premise somehow? I would just need to see the syllogism and see the premises. Why you so sassy, sassy pets? Oh, I don't think I'm sassy at all. I think I'm a fairly neutral person. That's cool. That's cool, like, intellectual analysis you did, but I think I'm a fairly neutral person. I don't get too excitable usually, but white background is messing up with your title. I don't have a what? Oh, I see. I would say that using reason at all presupposes God, so arguing against him is self-refuting. But you would need to demonstrate that. Because basically what you're saying is God does not exist, so bleep, bloop, bleep, blop. Like all the remaining words after are absurd. I would need to see a demonstration of that. Like, how am I speaking God into existence? By refuting God. Like, where does the word God need to come in order to prove the word or concept God? Like, why do I need an ultimate foundation for the ultimate foundation, I guess. Because you could get more specific. By using capital G God, we're referring to the ultimate foundation simplicator. So, like, why do I need to use the ultimate foundation simplicator to disprove the ultimate foundation simplicator? Or, like, how is the ultimate foundation self-evident? I need that syllogism. So similar to the not operator, like, if we replace the ultimate foundation, does ultimate foundation exist? That doesn't even make sense. That follows no, like, logical law. So, like, I would need to see something that follows a valid inference rule, I guess. And I think there was one that was kind of tricky. It was a 6-premise one you could use. I think it comes from the Orthodox Church. I would have to look it up again, but there's ones out there that are tricky, but like I just don't see this to be the case. I don't know. I'd be open to see this to not be the case. Because I'm just trying to think, like, why would I need to invoke ultimate foundation in order to disprove ultimate foundation? Because if I just say there's simply not an ultimate foundation, the only presupposition is the not there. I am not saying you are speaking him into existence. I would say that within these epistemological disputes, whichever worldview does not reduce to absurdity must be true. I just disagree with that, and I think the atheist worldview reduces to absurdity. Well, see, this would be more of an evidential argument, though. You're not making the tag argument anymore. Because the tag argument is saying the very thing itself is self-evident. It's not saying, oh, it's just like it makes more sense to the average person, or we believe this to be the case. We're speaking matter of fact with that argument. So if you want to just argue out the two perspectives and, like, prove to me why the atheist worldview is absurd, and I could point out some absurdities in the Christian worldview, we've now gone into evidentialism. We're no longer in the tag argument. The tag argument is a specific syllogism. Like, it's trying to say God is somehow self-evident. I need to see that self-evidence. Similar to the not operator. Because I'm speaking in terms of, like, metaphysical just fact of the matter, or, like, logical fact of the matter when I hear the tag argument. If you want to make, like, a theological argument, or, like, you know, the Christian worldview seems to make better sense of reality, I'm open to that, but that moves away from the tag argument. In this case, absurdity means a logical no. But logic and reasoning is only one part of knowing something is true. The other is empirical evidence, no. I think that there's different types of truths. So there's, like, transcendental, just fact of the matter. And then there's, like, evidential reasons to believe things. But ultimately, it needs to be true in order to be true. I would justify it on the basis of EEAN from Alvin Plantinga. Oh God, it's been so long. What the let me see here. What was this argument? Oh, the evolutionary argument. I haven't gone through this in a long time. I would need refreshed. Is he just saying evolution makes it impossible for naturalism to be the case? let's see. Beliefs are casually efficacious. Plantiga. Oh, okay. So he's arguing that evolution, it doesn't make sense for consciousness to come about from evolution. The humans have reliable cognitive faculties. Oh, okay. He's arguing a little bit more fundamental than that. A faculty is reliable if and only if the great bulk of its deliverances are true. He cited a thermometer stuck at 72. I think I agree with that point. Here's a simple version of the argument. Evolution selects for survivability. If the mind comes about by evolution, truth reduces to survivability. Specifically, evolution by natural selection. Yeah, I guess I would need to see a more specific syllogism than that, which is what I'm looking for, because I don't think Proposition 1, evolution selects for survivability, Proposition 2, selecting for survivability requires truth to be related to survivability. Therefore, conclusion is evolution can't lead to truth. I guess I don't see how that works. I would probably restated consciousness and evolution. It seems like all biological processes are developed from simpler versions of it, so consciousness as humans have it would be more simple and less sapient life forms. So I think consciousness, this gets tricky, because I guess it depends on the part of the mind that evolved that we're talking about. Because I think truth is just a transcendental fact of the matter. Like, I think if no conscious beings existed, truth would still be truth. So I guess I don't see how evolution has anything to do with truth. So I guess I reject Proposition 2 in his argument that evolving from a basis of survival of the fittest just simply reduces truth to survival of the fittest, or survival, or being able to continue. Like, I have no reason to suspect that's the case. Because I think the simple question that defeats this is, if humans didn't exist, would the proposition humans do not exist be true? I think that proposition would be true. What is the evidence that it exists outside of a mind? Yeah, it's just that argument. Just simply asking the question, if humans did not exist, would this proposition humans do not exist be true? I think that proposition necessarily has to be true. Because otherwise you would be saying humans do not exist is false, but yet humans do not exist. So I have no reason to think that like a proposition is only made true simply reducing down to survivability. Because that's one I don't see how it has anything to do with survivability. Or like an apple exists. Like if an apple exists, the proposition that the apple exists is required to be true. Like I don't see how that has to do with survivability. I guess. So like evolution, like it doesn't matter how advanced the consciousness is or not, like there would still be a fact of the matter present. Yes, but atheists cannot justify that. I believe minds exist absent humans. How can logic and truth exist without a mind? Yeah, I mean, you just basically ask the question, if no minds exist, would the proposition no minds exist be true? If no minds existed, then the proposition that no minds exist must be true. So there would still have to be a fact of the matter as to whether or not a mind exists or not. If that's not a fact of the matter or true or false claim, then it just doesn't exist. So yeah, I guess if I just say I remove all minds from reality, are all minds removed from reality, basically? Or all minds are removed from reality, is that proposition true? Like, it just has to be the case that there's a fact of the matter. Because this is also self-refuting. If there was no fact of the matter, if no minds exist, truth would be impossible. Yeah, I think so. More specifically, if no minds exist, would the proposition that no minds exist be true? I guess that's the question specifically. Do you agree that it would still be true, or do you agree that that would be false? That proposition. Because I guess even more fundamentally what I'm asking you is there a fact of the matter as to whether or not minds existing is a fact of the matter? Because yeah, my intuition is that that's just silly. The proposition also wouldn't exist. It seems to be an entirely absurd hypothetical. So do you think that there wouldn't be a fact of the matter as to whether or not there are or are not minds in that scenario? Because to me this just seems intuitively absurd. Because if there's no fact of the matter as to whether or not there's a fact of the matter of minds being present, then that just seems an absurd statement in itself. So I would just say that this is self-defeating. Because yeah, I think if there's a fact of the matter or question, then there has to be an answer to the fact of the matter. And then I think we've arrived at circularity, actually, at that point. Because now you'd be saying the fact that there is no fact of the matter. God is the father of the facts. Without God, there is no facts. Yeah, this is just pivoted away from that question. Now we're away from truth and we're back to God again. So we've just kind of reverted again. So now we're back to circularity. I guess this is my problem. Like, we didn't actually get a syllogism there. We've just resorted back to God as the father of facts. Facts can't exist without the father of facts. Now we're back to circularity again. So now I think that there was just nothing communicated. I guess this is just why I reject the tag argument. And I guess now more specifically the evolutionary argument as well. Because now it seems like we've just resorted to a big circle. Because if you can't say that there's a fact of the matter about a fact of the matter, now we're just, this is what happens, right? We're back to circularity again. So, I don't know. I guess I would ask you very specifically to answer the question, but if your answer is just, I'm not going to answer it, or it seems like an absurd hypothetical, like, I think this is where it leads to, right? And I would just say this is intuitively false. But circularity within epistemology is completely justified. Can you prove you exist without presupposing your own existence? So this is a complete pivot off of it. So, okay, I guess we'll move to epistemology being justified. Like, yeah, I'd say the issue with circularity isn't that it's not technically, logically correct. The issue is that it doesn't communicate anything. So if I just say I exist because I exist, that communicates nothing. You would have to demonstrate how it's a brute fact. So, like, I exist because in order to say I do not exist, I would have to invoke I and it exists again. Or there would have to be an I present to dispute the I being not existing, I guess. How is it a pivot? All of this is related to tag. No, we've just gone in a circle again. But no, I think that circularity in itself is not, like, logically false. That's not the issue with circularity. The issue with circularity is that it doesn't communicate anything. So, like, if I say I exist because I exist, that communicates nothing. It's just I might as well have walked up to you and said it bleep, blorp, bleep, blop. I don't know what that means. So I think you would need to somehow say, like, saying I do not exist presupposes there's an I. So, like, I'm speaking I into existence, and I'm speaking existence into existence. So that would be a reductio ad absurdum again. Like, I don't know, it's just impossible to communicate anything without accepting that existence portion. Same thing, like existence itself or reality itself is self-evident, because to say existence does not exist, what does the word exist mean then? You're not stating anything. So it just demonstrates that it's just a brute fact. I guess this comes down to the main argument of it. I guess I just reject that brute facts are moot facts, which is going to be like what Van Til and stuff argued. This just seems silly to me. It seems like you have to basically accept phenomenalism, or that basically all words ever are just like boos and yays, or oohs and ahs. I guess that's just, we're back at the same problem again. So, yeah. I mean, your point about circularity in epistemology is technically correct, that it's not logically incorrect to say something circular. Definitionally, it's logically true. So, how do we falsify P1 of tag? I guess it depends on the version. If we're doing like the presuppositionalist version, I'm trying to remember what P1 is. It's like God is the necessary precondition for the possibility of intelligibility and objective truth. I think it's just falsified by the fact that it's just not communicating anything, is how I falsify it. Like, you'd have to demonstrate how that's communicating something. Like, you'd have to demonstrate God. Like, in order to say God does not exist, or the ultimate foundation does not exist, I need to presuppose the ultimate foundation. Premise 1, if God does not exist, the logical preconditions for knowledge, rationality, and objective morality do not exist. Yeah, I just reject it because it's not communicating anything. It's unfalsifiable. That's also, I guess that's generally what I mean. Is that it's just not communicating anything. Like, you need to demonstrate it that, say God does not exist, presupposes God to say God does not exist, I guess. Or like, if, because you're basically like, to use like the not operator example, like if you could demonstrate the ultimate foundation does not exist, like if I went to try to like turn that down, I would have to invoke ultimate foundation, I guess, in order to falsify it. Seems like the only thing I have to invoke to falsify it is the not operator, and then the not operator is just self-evident, I guess. So I guess I just don't see how God is self-evident in terms of logic or reasoning. Maybe math could still be a thing, but I haven't heard anyone use the math argument in a while. I would have to hear the syllogism, but certainly when it comes to logic and reasoning, like I guess I just need demonstrated how the ultimate foundation does not exist requires the ultimate foundation. It seems like the only thing required there is the not operator. Because I have to say ultimate foundation not is all I need to say. And then it's just simply not, by matter of being not. And then you could be like, okay, well, how do you know the not operator doesn't exist? Or how do you know that that exists? Because you have to speak it into existence. I'm just going to say it's a brute fact. So I guess we're just stuck in a circle here of not communicating. And it doesn't seem like that non-communication's coming from the atheist end. It seems like it's coming from the theist end. Of like, I don't know. But yeah, unfalsifiable is something to say as well. If you can't falsify it, you could reject it. But it's even more fundamental than that. Because maybe you could argue there's some things by nature of being unfalsifiable are just the case. But you would have to demonstrate that. So ultimately the burden of proof, if you're going to speak something into existence, if you're going to say God simplicator, then God just has to be God simplicator. Like, if you had one message for the entire world to hear, what would you say? Sup, low key hollow. Be. Ooh. Be more. Oh man, only one? Oh fuck. I guess think more critically. I think that would solve a lot of the world's problems. Yeah, I would go with that. Think more critically. Only one. Yeah, I would just say think more critically. Or think deeper, something along that line. I don't know. Because, yeah, I think that's a lot of our problems right now. It's just people starting to be like, adopt like continental philosophy and like, just, I believe it because I believe it. Like, the number of times I've had to explain why the circular arguments aren't good has been dramatically increasing over the past few years. So, yeah, I think people, if they just think more deeply, they'll come to better conclusions. So, yep, that's a beautiful response. Thank you. What do you think God is? Capital G, God, is going to be defined as the ultimate foundation simplicator. You've had it throughout the entirety of the scholastic tradition. So it started with Aristotle. Aristotle believed in lowercase g gods, are basically like Zeus and stuff that would just, they're basically just like dudes with magical powers. He believed those were absurd. The thing that we're talking about when we use capital G God is the ultimate foundation. Or like, even if those gods exist, you could just ask, where do they come from? So they need an ultimate foundation. That's what people are talking about when they use the word capital G God. Yeah, but yeah, that's what we've been using since Aristotle, basically. Thomas Aquinas said something similar. God is, I believe, pure existence itself. Basically, ultimate foundation simplicator. And by simplicator, it's just kind of like, I believe, Latin for just that which is the case, or just the ultimate foundation, period. So, I reject an ultimate foundation, period, or capital G God. I suppose I reject lowercase g gods as well. I think they're just absurd, but I don't get a lot of Parthianic people or people that believe in like dual or like polytheism much. So why do you think there is a... So why do you not think there is a God? I think that there's a handful of reasons. I think eternalism just makes it impossible for ultimate foundation simplicator to exist. So I think time has always existed. So for time to go from not existing to existing would require a change. The time is just simply defined as the dimension in which change occurs, which means that time just must always exist. So if there's something that has always existed, that means that there's something lacking a foundation, which means that there is no ultimate foundation. So therefore God doesn't exist. So yeah, I think eternalism's a problem. I think the problem of suffering is a problem. Yeah, I think there's a bunch, but my most common arguments are going to be the problem of suffering and then the problem of eternalism, or there's just some things that have always existed. They probably collapse to like a wave function at some point instead of going out of existence, which means that there is no ultimate foundation, or if there is one, it's basically like an infinite wave function. And then you would just basically be doing God of the gaps to the wave function to try to speak God into existence. But yeah, I think there's a couple pieces of evidence for God, but I don't think that there is. Time has always existed for us, but not for the being outside. So yeah, if you think, I think it's impossible for God to be outside of time. A recent vid of Anton Petrov showed how scientists kind of sort of showed that time is actually entropy, or entropy creates time. Yeah, but then if that's the case, that would just prove or be more evidence of the wave function, because entropy could behave like a wave. So it just means that entropy always exists or behaves like a wave. So it would just kind of kick the can down the road. But it is an interesting thought experiment of like, or an interesting model. So I don't think it's possible for God to exist outside of time. I think that's definitionally false. I think he has to be temporal. Because the question I would ask you is, if God is outside of time, that means God, either his accidents or his essence, can never change. I would just simply ask you the question, is God's act of creation eternal? Or did God go from not creating to creating? Or either of those the case? And then either one of those you pick, there's going to be a conundrum. If creation has always existed, it means that creation itself is eternal, which means God didn't create it. And if creation came into being, that means that God went from not creating to creating, which means that God changed, which means God is in time, or God is temporal. So it's impossible for God to be outside of time. And you could run the same thing with knowledge instead. So does God go from not knowing the universe exists to knowing the universe exists? Or does God just always know that the universe exists? Which, if he knows that it's existed, it means that it's always existed. Which means that he didn't create it. So, I mean, there's a couple ways of saying that, but I think even like a lot of modern Christian theology, which I would point you to, there's like a really good guy, if you want to read more about that. Let's see, From Divine, what is it? It's like From Divine Time Maker to Watchmaker, I think. What is it? Yeah, R.T. Mullins, Ryan Mullins. He can create it to always exist. No, because he would still need time. If he creates it, it would mean that he went from not creating to creating, which would mean that he would need time, or he is temporal. He can't be outside of time. What is the argument against the blatant statement, God just is, and it is mysterious and beyond our logic? It is just we need actual evidence, since logica and reasoning don't work on this God. If you want to do a purely evidential argument for God, I actually think that's a common thing of modern Christians, is they've realized the logical arguments don't work. And that's actually going to be commonly what you say is, well, God is just outside of logic. We just need to look at evidence. But I would actually say that anything illogical just simply does not exist. So if they try to say God is illogical, he doesn't exist. But if they just simply humbly admit, I have no logical argument for God and we don't have one right now, so let's look at the evidence, I will gladly engage with them in good faith and just start going over the evidence with them. He is outside time. I wish I could join the calls. I don't have a Discord, sadly. Would you be willing to join the Jordan Travis show. He is live right now. Let me see the time. I would be willing to join a show, but it would probably have to be scheduled because I'm approaching my 3-hour mark. So I'm almost out of time for streaming for today. So I would gladly join like the Jordan Travis show or like whatever show or like a different medium other than Discord. It literally can't be right now. I've got like 10 minutes left. Unfortunately. Like, even if someone else wants to jump in Discord, I can't right now. Unfortunately, I have to start wrapping up the stream, but if you would like to schedule a talk, I would gladly do that. I've just got like 10 minutes left, which maybe that's enough time, but yeah, I try to stream 3 hours, so unfortunately I still have to work a full-time job. If I could do this for a living, I would, but you should get StreamYard. There is a free tier event. StreamYard, I'll look into that. StreamYard. Meet the live streaming. The easiest way to live stream and record. StreamYard is professional live streaming studio. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I might have to look into it. I know that there's a couple ways to set up also like simple communication, like you just click on a link. I need to look into that as well. So, I don't know, but I do have to wrap up stream. So, if you catch me 2 to 5, like, Eastern Standard Time, somewhere in there, and any given Monday through Friday, or even some weekends, like, that's the time I'm online, or I just need, like, DM'd or reached out to on, like, YouTube or Twitch or something. Just let me know. I can absolutely join for a conversation at some point. Actually, I need to start doing them again because I used to do them. But yeah, I need to wrap up the stream. So I appreciate everyone that came out, but I really do got to go. I've got like 5 minutes left in streaming now, and I got to go. So, yes, if you DM me or try to set up a time, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, yes, I'm very much willing to, whenever. Or it could even be outside of those times as well. I just need to know in advance because the way my job works, I don't have consistent hours. Like, I just have to work until the work's done. So I just need to know in advance. So, but yeah, I appreciate everyone that came out today. I need to wrap up the stream and get going. Thanks for coming out. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Join the Discord if you can join the Discord. Link in the bio description on all the platforms you're watching on. Follow, subscribe, like, all that good stuff, I guess.